Hey guys, and welcome back to week 2 of DnDecember 2019. We had another great week of amazing Dungeons & Dragons designs, and if you want to catch up on anything that you might have missed from last week, be sure to check out week 1's video. I'll link it down in the description. I want to give a big thank you to Anderson Carmen, the artist who came up with the prompt list that I'm following for this month's drawing challenge. Be sure to follow him on Instagram. He's doing a new D&D character every day based off of this list. I'll also link his original post with the full prompt list for anyone else interested in joining in on the fun. Last week we saw my first 5 festive designs for DnDecember, and since you guys seem to like them so much, I won't waste any more time. Let's jump right into the process and commentary for the 7 designs of this week. Afterwards, I'll showcase some of my favorite DnDecember designs that you guys did and shared with the tag #DnDecember. So sit back, grab some hot cocoa, and enjoy week 2 of DnDecember. The species prompt for day 6 was orc. Some of you may already know that I associate orcs with a sense of laziness in fantasy designs, as often the creatures are reiterated in hundreds of different stories with very similar physical and personality traits. Well, I really wanted to shake all of those tropes surrounding the orcs with my design, and my holiday spice twist was a perfect way to do that. I rolled Bard for the character's class, and of course my first thought was a Christmas caroler. Orcs tend to be pretty big, but that doesn't mean they have to be nasty brutes wielding clubs and daggers. My orc is Honuk Ironpipes, an 8'4" giant of the northern orc dwelling of Thok-Nuok. Her people have carved a niche in the national economy of their land by producing both high-quality and fashionable winter wear, as they take pride in the way they look, even in -10 degrees weather. The majority of the orcs in Thok-Nuok are artisans, and they enjoy every aspect of their chosen career paths. While many industrial cities are cold and grey, Thok-Nuok stays lit with the fires of 100 furnaces, candles, and glittering bells, and the songs of their choirs echo through the snow, lifting the spirits of all who can hear them, even in the dead of winter. Honuk leads the choir with songs of her own creation, always searching for new ways to inspire the creators who keep her small village thriving. Day 7 was Gnome. Honestly, I don't think I've ever drawn a gnome before. I had this dwarf character I made up years ago who was always mistaken for a gnome, but I'm pretty sure this is my first time ever drawing a legitimate, bona fide gnome. At first I couldn't separate myself from all of the traditional tropes. A pointy red hat, a big white beard, and of course that video of the CGI gnome.
Ooh, hello me old chums!
How was I going to be able to cohesively tie that in with the class that I rolled? Rogue. But I realized that I needed more villainous characters in the world that I was creating, and suddenly my mind turned to the 2015 horror parody, Krampus. The movie itself wasn't anything fantastic, but the designs for all of the twisted Christmas creatures that terrorized Adam Scott and his family suddenly flooded my mind, and I got an idea for what my gnome could be. Tillycring, the false disciple of the ancient spirit, is a member of the same cult Carbos the Coldbringer aligns himself with, worshippers of the Black Smog. But Tillycring is somewhat of a special agent among his order. He goes undercover as one of the many devout servants of the ancient spirit of the North, to infiltrate his secret kingdom and secure priceless magical artifacts from his workshop. Turns out though, his hood and mask aren't really enough to fool the ancient spirit or any of his workers, but because Tillycring is an idiot and can't tell which things he's taking from underneath his mask, they just let him think that he's a spy. The worst thing he's ever stolen was a half-eaten cookie that he mistook for a pendant of immortality. Day 8 was HALFLING, and I rolled PALADIN for class. Now, I read The Hobbit over this past summer, so when I read HALFLING, I just assumed that in D&D they were the exact same creatures that Tolkien had described in his works. If I was wrong, please feel free to correct me down in the comments. I feel like I don't even need to say that. I'm sure some of you have already begun to correct me on something or other that I've said thus far. I'm going to talk more about the technical side of these drawings with this prompt, because I wasn't super happy with my final design, and I couldn't come up with a good lore for them. Someone in the comments of last week's videos asked how I decided what goes in the background of each of these pieces. Well, if you haven't already noticed, these backgrounds are very simplistic, just colors and shapes to help bring the designs forward a little bit. But I try to incorporate some element of the character's design or personality in the white shape that I place behind them. Like in this one, where I used sharp angles to accentuate both the star and the tree themes. The colors are decided based off of the colors that I use in the character's design, as well as the colors I've already used in other pieces so far. Because I'm uploading them to Instagram, I like to think of each of these pieces as one big collaborative piece, so I'm always looking at them in comparison with one another, so that they all look good together on my Instagram page. Now, on day 9, I started breaking the rules a little bit. According to Anderson's prompt list, day 9 was supposed to be a half-elf, but to a guy who doesn't play too much D&D, that kind of just sounded like an elf, but less exciting to me, and I already did an elf. Now, on the other hand, in one of the few D&D campaigns that I played as a TORTLE, and there wasn't a single TORTLE on this list. Appalling. So I swapped out the half-elf for a TORTLE and rolled my d12. I got Wizard, and I immediately started my sketch knowing that I didn't want this to end up looking too much like OGRE. I think I did a pretty good job distinguishing my TORTLE Wizard from DreamWorks' Kung Fu Tortoise, but they're both anthropomorphic shelled reptiles, so I understand if you draw that comparison. Fro's Thumb spent most of her life in solitude, dwelling peacefully in a small mud hut in a southern swamp. It wasn't until her later years that she realized how painfully lonely the silence of her life had become. When a wandering cleric known as Tannen Evergreen happened to pass by her home, she realized what she was missing from her life. He gifted to her a single golden bell, one that chimed in such a simple and beautiful way that it felt like it could have been enchanted by some sort of magic. She devoted the rest of her life to pursuing the wonders of these little noisemakers, traveling far from the warmth and silence of her swamp to discover more beautiful sounds to fill her ears and her heart. Now they call her Fro's Jingle Shell, as she's outfitted her carapace with a massive bell that she had made by the artisans of the Thoknuak village. On the 10th day of DnDecember, I broke the rules again. Okay, I'm sure someone will call me out on this, but half-orc kind of just sounds like I'm doing orc again. I guess I could have made it half-orc, half-dragonborn. That might have been cool, but there was another playable race that wasn't on this list that I am familiar with from my experience playing Dungeons & Dragons. Nick plays as a Warforged in one of our campaigns, and there's just so much potential for a design with those guys that I couldn't just pass that up. So I fudged the list and started to work on Shim the Frozen Construct, my Warforged sorcerer. Shim was originally built as a sentinel to guard a military outpost, but hundreds of years ago the outpost was either destroyed or abandoned, and the harsh winters of the northern land buried it in snow and ice. Shim never left their post, and instead went into a hibernation-like slumber in hopes that one day their master would return. It was Glaziella, the woodswoman of the peppermint bark, who found them first. Shim was unrecognizable as a Warforged or even as something that was ever living. Coated in decades of ice and layers of snow, Glaziella brought them in pieces to Tannin Evergreen. He reanimated them with new consciousness and a new memory, and Shim now lives a life of bliss and freedom in Tannin's enchanted forest. But blips and fractals of memories from their past life continue to fade in and out of their frozen mind, and Shim has started to realize that there's something about their past that they'll never fully understand. Okay, it's day 11 and we're back to the list. Illithids are one of the coolest races in Dungeons & Dragons, in my opinion, and I was just bursting with ideas for what I could do with this day's prompt. I rolled Warlock, and to be honest, it was at this point that I realized I didn't know the difference between a Warlock, a Wizard, and a Sorcerer, at least from a design standpoint. Feel free to educate me down in the comments. Anyway, I started from the base idea that I wanted to have a design that had a collar like holly leaves and a big red head like a holly berry, and moved backwards from there. I also interpreted Warlock as a sort of higher status than either a wizard or a sorcerer, so I wanted this design to be super ornate, and of course, festive. What I created was Cha-Ok, advisor of the ancient spirit. Cha-Ok has seen many kingdoms come and fall, and it is rumored that this nomadic warlock is actually an agent of the ancient spirit of the north. People say that his sporadic visits to villages and cities across the land are not just to peddle his wares and goods, but to judge the integrity of the people he meets and report their behaviors back to the ancient spirit. This theory has been generated by reported sightings of a massive tome of names, thousands and thousands of them, with in-depth reports of the individuals listed therein and a summary of their nature, often simplified as either naughty or nice. During this age, it's mostly children who believe this to be true, but whether you believe or not, everyone seems to enjoy a visit from the old octopus. Day 12, the final day of this week's video. Day 12 species was Ogre. Now, like I said before, I'm more familiar with DreamWorks than I am with D&D, so I bet you can guess what I was thinking when I saw this prompt. But again, I realized I needed more villains for my world, so I turned away from a friendly green giant towards a more intimidating, sword-wielding menace. Yeah, I rolled Barbarian again, and I knew that I couldn't just do another axe. I'm not exactly sure what the rules are for what kind of weapons barbarians can wield, but I figured that a double greatsword fit the bill. Ugnar Greybelly is the heavy-handed enforcer of the Cult of the Black Smog. She has no problem being called naughty. In fact, she takes pride in that title. Her childhood was shaped by coal, and she spent her whole life using it, first to warm her home, then to cook her food, and finally as a weapon in the form of two super solidified carbon greatswords, each harder than diamond and heavier than steel. She first gained interest in the Cult of the Black Smog when she learned that they seemed to worship coal as much as she did, and the cult had a hard time saying no when she asked to join them, mostly because she had her hands around their throats. Now she works as a recruiter for the cult, traveling the land in search of foes that she deems worthy of joining her and her passion for all things charred and smoky. Her dedication has even caught the attention of the enigmatic leader of her cult, and some say that she has won the favor of the Great Singed King, the deity worshipped by the Black Smog. So those were the 7 prompts from this week of DnDecember. What did you guys think? Let me know down in the comments and tell me which one was your favorite. Mine was Chaok. I was super happy with the way he turned out. Before we end today's video, I want to showcase some of my favorite DnDecember drawings from this week. If you want to join in on the fun, be sure to tag all of the artwork that you post for this month with the tag DnDecember, and if I like it enough, I'll add it in on the next week's video. Keep up the good work, everyone. Happy DnDecember, and I'll see you all in the next video.